Hello and good morning. It's 8 a.m. by the clock. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Sonal Mirotra Kapoor. The last Monday of 2020 is here and it's coming with its piece of good news. A dry run for the vaccination drive will begin in India today in 4 key states. Apart from that, there is a cold wave coming in. Not so good news, but we'll tell you how to keep safe as well. That and much more coming up over the next 2 hours. Let's quickly dive into the headlines. Dry run for COVID-19 vaccination will be carried out in 8 districts of 4 states: Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Gujarat and Punjab. As tensions in the alliance rise, senior JDU leader KC Tyagi lashes out at the BJP over the so-called love jihad hate law to prevent interfaith marriages. Says the JDU does not support the atmosphere of hate and division. Shiv Sena MP Sanjay Rauts' wife Varsha summoned by the enforcement directorate in the PMC bank scam case. The IMD says severe cold wave is expected in Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, northern Rajasthan as well from 28th of December onwards. There is likelihood of increased flu in this season. Saurav Ganguly meets the Bengal governor, invites him to Eden Gardens. Mr. Ganguly says did not take any questions on the reason for his visit to Raj Bhavan. All right, on to the top story that is on everybody's mind, the vaccine. And today is an important day because a vaccination dry run will be taking place in at least 4 states of the country today. This is basically to test preparedness of the system, which is going on to cover at least 30 crore people in the first round of vaccination that will take place whenever we get the vaccine. Now, the dry run for COVID-19 vaccination will be carried out in 8 districts that have been chosen of these 4 states. That includes Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Gujarat and Punjab. Now, today and tomorrow, the test preparedness of the system to carry out a mammoth task of inoculating 30 crore people will be carried out in the shortest possible time as well. Now, the Home Ministry has made this announcement and will be overseeing all these preparations. Uma Sudhir joins us for the latest on this. Uma, how is Andhra Pradesh gearing up for this dry run?
The person you are speaking.
All right, we seem to have lost that line. The dry runs don't seem to be going well at the moment, at least when it comes to phone calls. Let's try and see what's the situation looking like in Assam, where we are told, Assam is one of the best performing states in the country in terms of COVID management, and the health department is all set to roll out the dry run over there as well. Let's check if we have Ratnadeep with us. All right, let's go over to Ratnadeep, who's taking you through all the preparations at the moment.
Along with 3 other states, the dry run for COVID-19 vaccination will also take place today and tomorrow in Assam. Now, Assam is considered as one of the best performing states in terms of COVID management. It has one of the best parameters in terms of not only COVID recoveries, but also one of the lowest deaths in the country, one of the lowest COVID positivity rates. So given the fact the state health department has chosen 2 districts, Sonitpur and Nalbari, Sonitpur in northern Assam and Nalbari in lower Assam for this dry run. In fact, in both the districts, 5 locations have been identified from a medical college to a ground zero level primary healthcare center, and in both the 5 locations in both the districts, the dry run will be carried out. Now, according to what we are here picking up from state health department sources, is that during this dry run, what they will test is in terms of the feasibility of carrying out the real vaccination through online application which is known as CoWIN. So basically it will test end-to-end deployment of vaccinators the vaccine teams, logistic movement of the.
All right, so end-to-end preparations of how the vaccine rollout will take place, that seems to be tested today. We have Uma Sudhir joining us on the phone line now. Uma, we lost your line earlier. Take us through how exactly is Andhra Pradesh gearing up for this dry run?
Sonal, Andhra Pradesh is going to be, in fact, conducting these dry runs in the Krishna district, and they have identified 5 different kinds of centers within Krishna district itself where this dry run will happen. At each of these centers, we are expecting about 25 targeted beneficiaries to come in, and these targeted beneficiaries are actually the healthcare workers who are the frontline workers and who are among the pre-identified beneficiaries that the Government of India and the State Government of Andhra Pradesh has spoken about even earlier. So these beneficiaries come in, and then the simulation exercise will begin. One is to check out whether the COVID application software that's been specifically developed for this purpose of the vaccination drive, that actually has an end-to-end solution from the beginning of identifying the beneficiaries and sending them across the messages, and to take them through the entire process of how this vaccination drive will in fact proceed. There are 2 other elements to this as well. The first one would be also setting up of an if there is any adverse impact, the adverse impact of the immunization drive. For that also centers have been set up, and they will also simulate about if they have an adverse impact, what are they going to be doing, how the protocol will happen, who will be taking charge, and where will these people be shifted. Because very often we are thinking about these vaccination drives will happen at a health center where a doctor will also be present. If that is not the case, then there will be a very nearby dispensary government hospital where in fact this adverse people who have an adverse impact of the immunization, they will be taken. The second important aspect again, is about the reporting of this entire exercise, how it will happen and how it will reflect in the software of the COVID application drive that they are talking about. Already, India does have expertise in terms of vaccinations of this temperature range from 2 degrees to 8 degrees. And therefore, the cold drive should not be such a challenge, is what health experts here are telling us, that they already do know how the vaccines will be received and how they will be stored and for how much time they can be, in fact, kept alive and without any adverse impact. All that, the expertise already exists, and therefore the core focus right now is to see how the COVID software actually plays out on the ground, whether it does prove to have a complete solution, or if there are any gaps, they can be addressed before the real drive actually begins.
All right then. So lots of things to keep in mind. You're also seeing pictures on your screens of how preparations are taking place at the airports as well, where cold storages have been set up. And now the rollout process, a dry run will take place in these identified districts of the 4 states. Meanwhile, India is seeing the lowest daily rise of coronavirus cases in nearly the past 6 months, bringing in much needed relief for the states that have seen a sharp spike in cases in November as well. But it's not time to be complacent. The new concern for the administration and India's national COVID-19 task force is the new mutant strain that has been traced to the UK, called the super spreader strain of the virus. How is India gearing up for that? Here's a report.
Is the worst of coronavirus over in India? India recorded 18,732 cases today, its lowest in nearly 6 months. The last time cases were this low was on July 1st, when 18,653 cases were recorded. India has been reporting less than 30,000 daily cases for last 2 weeks. India's recovery rate is over 95%, while its death rate is less than 2%. And nearly 10 lakh tests are being conducted daily. India's cases have been declining, while the US and several European nations have been seeing a surge in cases. India currently has among the lowest new cases per million people. USA tops the list with 572 cases, while India is at 16 cases per million people.
It's very difficult to say that worst is over for India, as we have seen that multiple waves have come with increased number of cases, and in between there is a period of less number of cases. So we have to continue and sustain our efforts in decreasing the number of cases and we should treat them accordingly.
भीड़ नहीं करना है.
On Saturday, the National Task Force on COVID-19 held a meeting over the new mutant strain that has been found in UK and discussed surveillance strategies to detect and contain the mutant variant. More than 50 samples of UK returnees are currently under sequencing at 6 labs across the country. The task force also agreed for the need of routine genomic surveillance to track different strains of coronavirus. Even apart from UK returnees, samples of 5% of positive cases from all states and union territories will be sent for genome sequencing. A genomic surveillance consortium called INSACOG has been formed under the leadership of National Centre for Disease Control. While an approval on vaccines for emergency use authorization is still awaited, a dry run to assess the vaccination preparations will be conducted across 4 states on Monday and Tuesday. These 4 states are Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Gujarat and Punjab. In New Delhi, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
Away from all the news from COVID-19 to the politics that is brewing, and an interesting one going out in Bihar. Now, strains seem to be emerging in the JDU-BJP alliance, and it's only deepening by the day. Now, Ramchandra Prasad Singh, a member of the Rajya Sabha, has been chosen by the Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar to lead his party, the Janata Dal United. The decision was formally taken at the party's national executive, and sources say that Mr. Kumar had already communicated his wish to appoint him as the JDU chief to few senior leaders a few days ago. Now, what does this mean? Handing over the party's reins to his close confidant, Mr. Singh will look after the party's affairs, including its dealings with the BJP. Now, get this and also see the next story I'm going to tell you in context with this. The JDU also expressed its disappointment over the Arunachal Pradesh episode, where 6 of the 7 JDU legislators defected and went in and joined the ruling BJP. JDU leader K.C. Tyagi said this is not a good sign for coalition politics.
अरुणाचल प्रदेश का जो घटनाक्रम हुआ है, जिसमें से पार्टी के 6 विधानसभा सदस्य को भारतीय जनता पार्टी ज्वाइन कराई गई है, उस पर पार्टी ने गहरा क्षोभ व्यक्त किया। ये गठबंधन की जो राजनीति है, उसके लिए अच्छा साइन नहीं है। ये अफसोस है कि बजाय मंत्रिमंडल में शामिल करने के उन्होंने अपनी पार्टी में शामिल कर दिया। दिस इज अगेंस्ट द बेसिक स्पिरिट ऑफ परफॉर्मिंग द धर्म ऑफ गठबंधन। ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए।
And that's not the only story. The JDU has also expressed displeasure with BJP and discontent with BJP over the love jihad laws to prevent interfaith marriages. JDU said in a press conference, the same one that you heard K.C. Tyagi saying, that the JDU does not support the atmosphere of hate and division that is being spread by the BJP.
Love jihad को लेकर के देश के कोने कोने में एक घृणा का माहौल पैदा करने का प्रयास किया जा रहा है। संविधान की धाराओं में लिखा हुआ है, सीआरपीसी में लिखा हुआ है कि 2 अडल्ट कोई भी अपनी मर्जी से अपना जीवन साथी चुनने के लिए स्वतंत्र है। इसमें कास्ट, रीजन कोई बीच में आड़े नहीं होता। लिहाजा जो लव जिहाद को लेकर के जो घृणात्मक, निंदात्मक और विभाजन का जो एटमॉस्फेयर तैयार किया जा रहा है, जनता दल उसको अच्छा नहीं मानता।
Meanwhile, away from Bihar, what's happening in West Bengal? The BCCI president and former cricket captain Saurav Ganguly on Sunday met with the West Bengal governor Jagdeep Dhankar at his residence. The meeting was described by the Raj Bhavan sources as just a courtesy call, but the interaction went on for over 2 hours. Governor's office even tweeted pictures later saying had an interaction with Dada, president of BCCI, at Raj Bhavan today and on various issues, and accepted his offer to visit the Eden Gardens, the oldest cricket ground in the country, established back in 1864.
Well, Saurav Ganguly actually spoke a little bit after he came out of the meeting, and he clarified that it was just a courtesy call because the governor had apparently desired to go and visit Eden Gardens, something the governor has not done since he arrived in Bengal in July last year. So he apparently contacted Saurav Ganguly, and Saurav Ganguly said, you can't come today because there's some practice going on, but we'll try and set it up next week. And then he said that I decided at that point of time I'd just come and see the governor personally myself, which is how he came along at about 4:40 in the evening. But what was surprising is that he stayed till almost 6:40, so that's more than an hour and a half of meeting with the governor to discuss a visit to Eden Gardens. Certainly people are sitting up and taking notice. Now remember that there are two things that precede this particular incident, and that is Amit Shah himself constantly talking about how, recently he's been talking about how a Bhumiputra will be the Chief Minister of Bengal when the BJP comes to power in 2021. That has been his theme the last few times that he was here. Also, back in January of 2015, a member of corporate India had tweeted that Saurav Ganguly is joining the BJP. And ever since, this whole issue has been on the anvil. And, Mr. Harsh Goenka, he had actually tweeted with the hashtag Dada versus Didi. Imagine what it's doing to poll-bound Bengal right now.
Back here in the capital, it's been 33 days of the farmers' protest, 33 days of them being out in the cold, 33 days of protesting and trying to raise their voice against these 3 farm laws that have become so controversial. Now, the pictures on your screen are from Sunday evening when Arvind Kejriwal, the Chief Minister of Delhi, along with several other leaders and the deputy as well, Manish Sisodia, visited the Singhu border and where the farmers have been protesting. Arvind Kejriwal one more time appealed to the government, this time with folded hands, saying, take back the black laws.
अभी तक मेरे को एक भी नेता इनका नहीं मिला जो इस कानून का एक भी किसानों को क्या फायदा होगा ये बता सके। आप भी सुन लेना गूगल पे जाके, यूट्यूब पे जाके। जितने ये बड़े बड़े नेता आते हैं सारे क्या कहते हैं? कहते हैं जी हम बताएंगे क्या फायदा होगा। बताओ जी। कहते हैं इससे आपकी जमीन नहीं जाएगी। तो ये कोई फायदा हुआ? जमीन तो है ही आज हमारे पास। इससे आपकी एमएसपी नहीं जाएगी तो ये कोई फायदा हुआ? इससे आपकी मंडी नहीं जाएगी, ये कोई फायदा हुआ? तो फिर कानून क्यों लाए हो? कानून फाड़ के फेंक दो।
All right, on to Chennai now, where the good news at the moment is that Rajinikanth has been discharged and he's reached his Chennai residence as well. Remember, he was admitted in the Apollo hospital in Hyderabad, and that was because of a massive BP fluctuation that was seen in him. His blood pressure was not really in control, but after initial observations and after staying in the hospital for some few days, at this point, he was sent back. At this point, the doctors have advised him complete bed rest for a week and also avoid any physical activity to ensure that he does not contract the COVID-19 virus as well and keeps his risk down. But what does this mean for the big announcement that we were going to see from Rajinikanth? Let's go across to Uma Sudhir joining us live this morning. Good morning, Uma. Everybody has been sitting in anticipation and wondering when that big announcement by Rajinikanth will take place. Will it happen in 2020? Will we have to wait for next year? What are you hearing relating to his health condition? What could be the next plan of action?
For all fans and admirers of Rajinikanth, the first good news, of course, that is he is back home after 2 days in hospital and that his blood pressure has stabilized. But those who were hopeful that he will make his political announcement on the 31st of December, as he had promised on the 3rd of December, that's something that certainly looks a big question mark, because the doctors have advised him 1 week of complete bed rest, and even otherwise they have said that he should not indulge in any activity that increases his stress level, and they have also made a mention that he should not also indulge in any activities that increase the risk of COVID. And for the second time we are hearing in the last 3 months a reference to the renal transplant, the kidney transplant that the superstar had undergone, and how that would make him very vulnerable, and the fact that he is having what is being called as labile blood pressure, which means very fluctuating blood pressure, and his age is also being pointed out as reasons why he should perhaps not take such an active role in politics as of now. I've spoken to some close associates of Mr. Rajinikanth. They say things are still tentative, and they do hope that he will still keep the December 31 deadline. But given his health status, that may look unlikely, because politics is a profession that requires huge amounts of loads of energy, in fact, and a lot of interaction with people, physical interaction with people as well, and a lot of moving around, all of which his health status may not as of now permit. So what is being planned as of now is that he may put out a statement on the 31st of December, putting the date off as earlier planned to Pongal on January 14th or India's birthday on the 17th of January, but no final word yet on any of that. Back to you.
All right. So on New Year's Eve, we will finally get to know what's happening next and what's on the mind of the great Rajinikanth. Thanks so much for joining us with the very latest. Well, we're going to slip into a break now. But on the other side, the Enforcement Directorate has summoned Shiv Sena MP Sanjay Rauts' wife. This regarding a PMC bank fraud. Details coming up next. Welcome back. Let's take you through the other top story, that is Shiv Sena leader and their, in a way, one of their most vocal MPs, Sanjay Rauts' wife, Varsha Raut, has now been summoned by the Enforcement Directorate on the 29th of December, that's tomorrow, in the PMC bank fraud case. Earlier, she was asked to join the probe on the 11th of December. Remember, these are times, we are reporting the story, when a lot of criticism has gone to the way of the government in trying to say that they've been levelling charges on parties who do not agree with them, on opposition parties per se. So Sanjay Raut also kind of insinuating the same at this point. Let's bring you his tweet. He says, in quite a filmy style, "Aa dekhe zara kisme kitna hai dam." That's what Sanjay Raut is saying, almost calling it war with the BJP over there. This has been a personal attack on the former ally of the BJP and perhaps the oldest there, Shiv Sena, which sort of 2020 brought that alliance to a closure and split. On that note, quick break, back with all the headlines on top of 8:30. It is going to be a very cold North India at the moment, at least for the next 1 week, as we say goodbye to 2020. That's the latest advisory coming in from IMD, which has warned of a severe cold wave expected prominently in states like Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, and Rajasthan as well. There is a likelihood of increased flu in this season. That's what the IMD is saying as well. Let's get a word from Divya Wadhwa on this. Divya, we all woke up to quite a chilly morning, and even last night in the national capital, there were some showers, quite unexpected over there. What is the reason behind this?
Very good morning, Sonal. Yes, those showers were expected, and that's because of the snowfall over the higher reaches. So when we talk about the higher reaches, that's Uttarakhand, Jammu and Kashmir, as well as Himachal Pradesh. Snowfall was expected there. In turn, this is a western disturbance, which is also bringing about rainfall towards the plains, whether it's Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, and adjoining areas as well. Now, like you mentioned, cold wave conditions are expected from today, and we are expecting cold wave conditions over today and tomorrow between Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, and Delhi, as well as parts of Saurashtra and Kutch as well. From tomorrow, cold wave conditions are expected in other parts of the country, that's other parts of the northern plains, that means Uttar Pradesh, as well as going into central parts of the country, that's Madhya Pradesh. The higher reaches, as Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh, will also start to reel under cold wave conditions from tomorrow till about the end of the year. Now, when we talk about ground frost conditions, those have started to prevail in parts of Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi, as well as Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh, along with Rajasthan and West Madhya Pradesh. What is ground frost? When the surface level is also freezing, and it's not just the windy conditions that are coming in directly from the hilly areas of the north. Now, cold day conditions are likely to prevail in Punjab today, which means that the daytime temperature will be down by almost 4 to 5 degrees from what's usually expected. And in turn, now with the temperature falling, we're going to see a lot of moisture coming into the air because of the way it's been raining over the plains since the last 24 hours. We're expecting more showers today. So now fog conditions can't be far behind, and that's what we're expecting in parts of Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, also Delhi and adjoining areas like Punjab, Haryana and Chandigarh. That is expected from tomorrow again till the end of the year. So when we talk about the temperature, that's expected to dip. So far as the minimum temperature is concerned, Delhi was coming in at 6 degrees Celsius yesterday, and now we're expecting that the temperature is going to fall. 6 degrees was a degree below normal, but the maximum temperatures, that's the daytime temperature, that felt warm because the sun was out, and it was around 22.6 degrees Celsius. That is actually 2 degrees more than it should be at this point in time. Now what we're going to see is that the temperature is going to dip by almost 2 to 3 degrees in the coming 2 to 3 days. It could go down even further. Cold wave conditions are expected and fog conditions are expected. Light rain expected as far as the course of the day is concerned, and fog conditions are likely to make a huge comeback. So from now till the new year, we're expecting foggy conditions, and it's going to be cold, not just as far as those winds are concerned, but even at the ground level it's going to be very, very cold, making life quite uncomfortable, especially for the homeless and the people living on the streets and outside.
All right, thanks so much for that, Divya. In fact, life quite difficult for those protesting farmers as well. Day 33 of them being on the roads. This is what we are picking up as some of the reactions coming in to that massive cold wave.
ठंड तो बहुत प्लस कोहरे तो है नहीं, बस चाहिए एक सहारा है मेरा, और कम से कम यहाँ के नगर निगम वगैरह PWD वाले को सोचना चाहिए कि लकड़ी अकड़ी डाल दे, बेचारे गरीब रोड पर इधर उधर टहल टहल के चाय पी रहे हैं।
बहुत ज्यादा है सर, ठंड इतनी है कि हाथ कांप रहा है, चाय एक सहारा है। अब जिला अधिकारी का अनुरोध है कि भैया किसी चौराहे चौराहे पे लकड़ी गिरवाएं।
All right, moving on to the other big story. Amit Shah wrapped up his two-day visit in the northeast yesterday as he was in Imphal. The high point, though, was the meeting with the civil society group to understand Manipur's resistance to the Naga peace deal. No clear word, though, apart from assurance to trust the centre. Ratnadeep Chaudhary has more.
Day 2 of Amit Shah in the northeast. First, a morning prayer at Guwahati's Kamakhya temple. Then onwards to Manipur, where hundreds lined the streets from the airport to greet the Union Home Minister. For a change, there was no boycott call by the insurgents over a public rally in Imphal.
3 साल के अंदर हमने वादा किया था, मोदी जी कह कर गए थे कि मणिपुर बंद हो जाता है, ब्लॉकेज कर देते हैं। राजनीतिक कारणों से चुनाव के वक्त भी कांग्रेस पार्टी ने किया था। ना गैस मिलता है, ना केरोसिन मिलता है, ना बच्चों को ब्रेड मिलती थी। सारी चीजों की किल्लत होती थी या नहीं होती थी? भाई याद करो जरा, बोलो जोर से, माताएं बहनें बैठी है, बोले होती थी या नहीं होती थी? आज 3 साल हुए, एक भी बार बंद नहीं हुआ है। वो ही बताता है कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी का जहां शासन आता है वो लोगों के विकास।
The Home Minister did not utter a word on the sensitive Naga peace deal, which Manipur is skeptical about, fearing it will lead to the disintegration of the state. Instead, he lauded the extension of the Inner Line Permits or ILP to Manipur in 2019. An ILP is a special travel document Indian citizens require to travel to a particular state.
मोदी जी ने तय किया कि इनर लाइन परमिट मणिपुर को न देना मणिपुर के मूल निवासियों के साथ अन्याय है, और मांगे बगैर इनर लाइन परमिट देने का काम इस देश के प्रधानमंत्री।
This assurance and the soft jibe has more to read between the lines. Watchers believe that by meeting the civil societies, Amit Shah has started his efforts to build a larger consensus across the northeast before centre finally inks the Naga peace deal.
It is resolved that no ethnic-based territorial council can be accepted within the territory of Manipur, as such arrangements will create more political and ethnic problems.
While Shah heard different groups representing different communities, by launching projects worth 3,000 crores in Manipur, including an ITSEZ, BJP is hoping to keep the narrative on development instead of the far more contentious issue of threats to Manipur's territorial integrity. With Mubassir Raji in Imphal and Ratnadeep Chaudhary in Guwahati, Rohit Wellington for NDTV.
All right, let's revisit the top story at this hour, which is the preparedness for the vaccine that is taking place. And today and tomorrow are the two crucial dry run days for the country, where this dry run will be carried out in 4 states across the country. Now, the first cover will actually take in about 30 crore people in the first round of coverage that a vaccination drive will take place whenever we get the vaccine, that is. And how exactly will be the rollout process like, end to end, entire program over there, and what is the routine that will be followed will be carried out as dry runs in states of Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Gujarat and Punjab. Uma Sudhir taking you through the process.
Andhra Pradesh is going to be, in fact, conducting these dry runs in the Krishna district, and they have identified 5 different kinds of centers within Krishna district itself where this dry run will happen. At each of these centers, we are expecting about 25 targeted beneficiaries to come in, and these targeted beneficiaries are actually the healthcare workers who are the frontline workers and who are among the pre-identified beneficiaries that the Government of India and the State Government of Andhra Pradesh has spoken about even earlier. So these beneficiaries come in, and then the simulation exercise will begin. One is to check out whether the COVID application software that's been specifically developed for this purpose of the vaccination drive, that actually has an end-to-end solution from the beginning of identifying the beneficiaries and sending them across the messages, and to take them through the entire process of how this vaccination drive will in fact proceed. There are 2 other elements to this as well. The first one would be also setting up of an if there is any adverse impact, the adverse impact of the immunization drive. For that also centers have been set up, and they will also simulate about if they have an adverse impact, what are they going to be doing, how the protocol will happen, who will be taking charge, and where will these people be shifted. Because very often we are thinking about these vaccination drives will happen at a health center where a doctor will also be present. If that is not the case, then there will be a very nearby dispensary government hospital where in fact this adverse people who have an adverse impact of the immunization, they will be taken. The second important aspect again, is about the reporting of this entire exercise, how it will happen and how it will reflect in the software of the COVID application drive that they are talking about. Already, India does have expertise in terms of vaccinations of this range, temperature range from 2 degrees to 8 degrees. And therefore, the cold drive should not be such a challenge, is what health experts here are telling us, that they already do know how the vaccines will be received and how they will be stored and for how much time they can be in fact kept alive and without any adverse impact. All that the expertise already exists, and therefore the core focus right now is to see how the COVID software actually plays out on the ground, whether it does prove to have a complete solution, or if there are any gaps, they can be addressed before the real drive actually begins.
So that's what the preparation and dry run in Andhra Pradesh will look like. Let's look at Assam now as what's the preparation over there. Assam, remember, is one of the best performing states in the country in terms of COVID management. The health department, with the rollout of the dry run of COVID-19 vaccination in 2 of the chosen districts where the dry run will happen. And the dry run will also exercise an end-to-end testing of the COVID-19 vaccination process, including vaccination and logistics and the mobilization of sites as well. Ratnadeep has more.
Along with 3 other states, the dry run for COVID-19 vaccination will also take place today and tomorrow in Assam. Now, Assam is considered as one of the best performing states in terms of COVID management. It has one of the best parameters in terms of not only COVID recoveries but also one of the lowest deaths in the country, one of the lowest COVID positivity rates. So given the fact the state health department has chosen two districts, Sonitpur and Nalbari. Sonitpur in northern Assam and Nalbari in lower Assam for this dry run. In fact, in both the districts, 5 locations have been identified from a medical college to a ground zero level primary healthcare center, and in both the 5 locations in both the districts the dry run will be carried out. Now, according to what we are here picking up from state health department sources, is that during this dry run what they will test is in terms of the feasibility of carrying out the real vaccination through online application which is known as CoWIN. So basically it will test end-to-end deployment of vaccinators, the vaccine teams, logistic movement of the vaccine. So all these trials would be done, but without a vaccine. Basically there will be no vaccines with the team, because the vaccines are yet to come in, but they will do otherwise the entire process will be tested in 2 locations, rather in 2 districts and 5 locations in each of the districts. So in total, in 2 days time, they will cover 10 locations in Assam.
Welcome back. Time for an NDTV special report. NDTV now in partnership with Luminous is running a Be a Bijli Donor campaign. We say save more and save power for more power. Our motto is to encourage citizens to conserve energy today to get more power tomorrow. This can also be achieved in our workspaces as are built up in an energy efficient way. Here are some of the steps we can take.
At first look, this space comes across like any other office. But it annually saves 49% more energy compared to a conventional office. This is Alliance for an Energy Efficient Economy, AEEE. A policy advocacy and energy efficiency market enabler with a not-for-profit motive. Its president and executive director, Dr. Satish Kumar, explains his lean, mean and green philosophy. An approach that can result into an energy-efficient workspace.
You need to ensure that the light that you are getting, the daylight that you are getting, is as much as possible. The amount of heat that you get inside the building, you can control that heat so that the amount of electricity needed for cooling can be minimized. And then finally, what you need to do is that you need to go for most energy efficient technology.
Talking of technology, all these power tags are linked to what one can call its brain, a smart link, which gives data on which equipment uses what amount of energy, allowing an organization to trace and benchmark the consumption. Making a smart choice in picking an energy efficient equipment for your workspace can benefit you economically in a long run. BEE star rated ceiling fans have a power rating of 50 to 55 watts. On the other hand, brushless DC motor fans have a peak power rating of 28 watts only. This translates to 44% reduction in power consumption in one shot. Hence, lighting up your pockets and future both. With camera person Manoj Thakur, Arun Singh for NDTV.